Okay, in this lesson we're going to be moving the 3D elements of our design onto our modelling layers. So as you can see in our design, all of the work that we've been doing initially has been done on construction layers. The purposes of this is that we end up with a lot of extraneous line work or design elements which get pushed and pulled, which at the earliest stages may just end up being deleted from the design. It's once we've got these design elements finalized that we need to move them into a position where we can begin to allocate materials or just designate them as specific component parts. So the use of construction layers in our layer manager just allows an efficient working surface that can then be transferred to our modelling layers at an appropriate stage. Okay, in order to get underway with that to begin with, what we're going to do is just make sure everything is on screen. So in order to check that, we just open up our layer manager, scroll down our list and make sure everything is on. Okay, we can see that there. Now we're going to double check that by going on to our hide command and right clicking to make sure all objects are shown. We're just going to close the layer manager for a moment. Now edit, we're going to scroll down to select objects and we're going to select 3 objects to begin with. The first one will be curves. We're going to group those. So we scroll down to our group command and we're going to hide them temporarily. Then we're going to scroll down to edit, select objects, points. You can see the few points are selected there. We may as well group those as well, and we will hide those. And the last one, if we've got any, we're going to edit, select objects, and scroll down to polylines. Okay, there's no polylines selected, so what remains on screen at this stage is just 3D geometry, and the 3D geometry is what we're interested in terms of our final modeling stage. So we're just going to open up our layer manager again. And a little bit of housekeeping at this stage. You'll notice under the hazard yellow element there, it's listed the color that would basically be the final color of the model, which is useful, but it's also distracting during our modeling stage because you'll notice that the color of the component is the same as the active color that we've chosen. So that can cause some confusion. So just as a bit of housekeeping, we're just going to change that hazard yellow to just something which is different from the active image. There we go. So you'll see when we click on that now, the difference between the yellow, it's just easy to differentiate. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we're just going to minimize the con layer. So we're just going to move that down and we're just going to add a few key layers to our traffic light. So if we just select new sublayer, the second one across, and we're going to put in, let's see, we're going to put in the light unit. Then we'll click a new layer underneath that. We'll put in the warning light. And after that, we'll put in the cams. So rather than watch me type on screen all of the various sub-layers on that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video at this stage and I'm going to go under each of those elements, the light unit, the warning light and the cams, and put in the necessary sub-layers such that we can allocate the various component parts. So I'm just going to pause the video at this point and come back once those sub-layers are in place and we'll visit them again. Okay, we're back again and we've typed in all of those main layers and sub layers, and just to visit those now, what we're intending to do is we've broken up the design into the light unit and you can see the component parts that I've sort of established there. Now we can build on these later, but we have the body, the light cans, the light hoods, the light faces and reflectors, lamps, brackets, gunmetal fittings. Now the advantage of this is that we can then allocate our materials via the layer manager, which can be of use to us during the rendering stage when we're fine-tuning the various parts of the model. Equally, what we've done is we've done the warning light at the top in the same fashion. So we've done the body, the light face, the reflector and the lamp, and the cam in the same way. So the cam bracket, the cam body and the cam lenses, and lastly we've got the main pole. Now for the time being, what we're going to do is we're just going to turn those elements off. So we just turn off the light unit, so the little light bulb there, the warning light, the cams, we'll just move that back up. So we're just going to make the traffic light current, and we're going to turn off the cams themselves and turn off the main pole. Now the advantage of this is that when we start to allocate the materials, we can then move them accordingly into the layer. So I've selected the main pole there. All I need to do is copy onto that layer. So we just go change object layer, and you see it automatically disappears for us. So we're going to look at the top of the design now on the perspective view. We're going to open up the warning light, and we're just going to allocate it to the correct face. So we're just going to right click, change it to the light face. Then we're going to allocate that to the lamp. So change the object face. Then we're going to use that on the body. There we go, change object face. Now we're going to move in and look at the various parts. So we're going to move all of the body, that portion there, the top section onto the body, change object face, and we can see that that's all done. The next element we're going to open up are the cams. So in order to do that, we may need to deselect. So we're just going to ungroup those elements there. We're going to put that on the cam bracket. So change object layer again, so it's just a repeat command. Check inside to make sure the reflectors aren't selected. They are, so we're going to have to ungroup those. Ungroup them again. Ungroup them again. There we go. And they're still grouped, so we just keep ungrouping until, there we go, it stops flashing. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So we move that onto the cam body. Move those onto the cam bracket, change object layer, and then we make those the cam lenses at the end of the day. So change object layer. So you can see we can progressively cut through the design. I'm just going to pause that while I do the other cam. So you can see at this stage what we've done is we've transferred all of the elements that are relevant to the cams onto their respective layers, so we can just minimize that. We can now look at the warning light. The warning light has already been done, so we can minimize that. Now we're going to go to the light units themselves. So we're going to ungroup those sections. So use the ungroup command. Keep pressing until it fails to flash anymore, and you can see you've ungrouped into the full section. Now we're just going to select the hoods. I'm holding down the Shift key. Left click on each of those. We're going to put those on the light unit hood. So change object layer. So you can see how quickly and efficiently we can do that. Now we're going to do the light faces. Now these will be allocated with different colors at a future stage. We'll allocate those colors via object, but for the time being, it's simply a logical place to put them on the light faces layer. So change object layer. Now we need those reflectors in place. Holding down the Shift key, using the right key to pan the object around in space. There we go. And they're fully selected, so we can drop those into the reflector section, change object layer. Now I'm just going to pause there and work through some of the elements of the light faces. They'll be allocated into the lamps and the brackets, and then we'll come back shortly. Okay, we're just on the closing stages of allocating these materials to the various layers. It's a fairly straightforward process. We're just selecting the final elements and dropping those into the light unit body. So we're just changing those. The rings will go into the cans. So light unit cans, change them each time. And we'll do those lighting elements on the lamps themselves. So we just change those objects. And the last stages before we proceed down is we're going to shift that onto the bracket. So the light unit brackets, change objects, and all of these remaining elements can quickly be selected and moved into the gunmetal fittings. So we're just going to drop those into the gunmetal fittings stage, and that's the remaining part on the base. We turn that off now, and we can confirm that there's nothing left on screen, and we're just going to switch those elements back on to finalize our assessment. Now everything should be the one color at this stage. Main pole, Everything that's the top section should be the one color at this stage. We'll designate that some material layers shortly. Close off our layer manager, and there we've finished our straightforward allocation from our construction layers to our various modeling layers. The main thing to remember to make this an efficient process is to isolate all of the polylines at the beginning of the process, leaving just items that need to be moved. Okay, see you in the next lesson.